Khamzat is very good at wrestling. He's very good on the ground. He's very good at pressure. The longevity of the fight, it hasn't been his best approach. So you see with Usman, you see with Gilbert, tough test. I've put a lot of rounds in with DDP, and he don't go away.
A monster. Duplessis, the champ. I think he's in him for a rude awakening because he's going to realize that his wrestling is not as good as Chimaev's truly is.
The countdown is on, and the fight world can't stop talking about Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus du Plessis. It's not just skill on the line, it's heart, grit, and the questions of who breaks first when the fight gets deep. Luke Rockhold breaks down Khamzat Chimaev's game, highlighting his proficiency in wrestling, ability to control the ground, and the pressure he brings. But here's the kicker. According to Rockhold, Khamzat's cardio in those longer fights has been a real weak spot. So if Khamzat can't put Dricus du Plessis away early, Rockhold figures it's going to turn into a brutal, drawn-out war. And that's exactly where du Plessis shines, showing off his champion's heart every time.
Khamzat is very good at wrestling. He's very good on the ground. He's very good at pressure. The longevity of the fight, it hasn't been his best approach. So you see with Usman, you see with Gilbert, tough test. I've put a lot of rounds in with DDP, and he don't go away. So unless he gets to him early, it's gonna be tough late.
So if he doesn't put him away early, it's a DDP type of fight.
I think that's the way the DDP goes. You know, he manages to get through, weathers the storms, and he keeps going. That's what champions do, and that's why DDP's on top.
Building on that perspective, Tito Ortiz is seriously pumped about Khamzat Chimaev, calling him an absolute monster and vicious. He's convinced that Dricus du Plessis, the current champ, is about to get a rude awakening when he realizes his wrestling just isn't on Chimaev's level. He said Chimaev is going to completely overwhelm du Plessis in about 3 or 4 rounds by flawlessly mixing up his wrestling and striking, just like those top-tier Russian fighters.
I respect the guy. He's a monster. Duplessis, the champ. I think he's in him for a rude awakening because he's going to realize that his wrestling is not as good as Chimaev's truly is. And it was heartbreaking for me in that middleweight division because when Bo Nichols got picked apart his last fight, I was like, man, why didn't you wrestle? You're one of the best guys in the world in wrestling. Use your wrestling. And that's what all the Russians do. They use their wrestling to set up punches. They use their punches to set up the wrestling. And then they take people down and they choke them because they're really good at it. I think Chimaev, I would give it maybe 4 rounds, 3 to 4 rounds, 3 to 4 rounds. I think Chimaev just overwhelms them too much. I think. That's my opinion once again.
However, on the flip side, Nick Barnhill throws out a serious warning. Even though Khamzat Chimaev is a powerhouse, he's been rocked before, like by Gilbert Burns. But get this, Barnhill believes Dricus du Plessis hits even harder. He's talking about DDP's crazy drunken master-style punches that are just so hard to predict. Barnhill stresses that Chimaev let DDP get comfortable because those weird, sneaky shots are the ones that land clean and do the most damage. Seriously, according to Barnhill, nobody moves or strikes quite like Dricus.
No, and he also got dropped by Gilbert Burns. Yeah. And when Gilbert Burns hits like a truck, no doubt about it, but DDP hits even harder than that. So I'm very interested to see how Khamzat does deal with that. And the strikes that DDP likes to throw, they throw everybody for a loop. They're confusing for everybody. So it's very important that Khamzat Chimaev, like you said, doesn't let DDP get into his rhythm. Because even though he's like this drunken master, you know, kind of stumble and fall and land on top and stumble and fall, and but land a hook on the way down, he's the kind of guy that, yes, it might not look like the prettiest thing, but it, like you said, it's the most effective strike he can throw at that moment. And it's always the strikes that you don't see coming that do the most damage. And DDP is just that guy where I might sound crazy saying this, because we were talking about MVP last time he was fighting. It's so hard to find somebody that moves like MVP. That's true. But you can go to a karate school or whatever, taekwondo school, kung fu, and probably find some people that hop around pretty similar. I don't know of anybody that moves similar to Dricus du Plessis. You know, when he's throwing a 1-2, it looks like you could push him with 2 fingers over onto towards his jab hand, because all of his weight is so lopsided and his feet look like they're on a balancing beam, right? We always say, like, you know, you want to keep your feet on the train tracks.
Yeah,
that keeps your balance, keeps you more based. Dricus's feet will wind up, you know, toe to heel. He's right there, but of course he's still able to find a shot. So I don't know if Khamzat is going to be able to find those same looks off anybody.
Expanding on his analysis, Nick Barnhill is pumped about this upcoming Khamzat Chimaev fight, saying it's truly unlike any other. He points out that for the first time, Khamzat's opponent, Dricus du Plessis, isn't just unafraid, he's practically laughing off the challenge. The big question, according to Barnhill, is whether Khamzat will actually stick to a smart, calculated game plan, or if he'll charge in wildly, as he usually does.
I agree. Yeah, DDP is the first guy that Khamzat has been booked to fight where we don't feel some sort of fear out of the opponent, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's afraid of anybody in the UFC, but Dricus is like, no, I laugh at this guy. This guy's not on my level. And that's an approach to a Khamzat fight that we have not seen yet. And I agree with you totally that he does need to stick to the game plan, whatever that may be. If you can stick to the game plan, I assume that the minds that you've got together have devised one good enough to become world champion, but you do have to stick to it. And again, like you're saying, what will it be? Will he shoot across the cage bright and early, like the very first seconds, like he always does? Or will he show a little bit more respect and be a little bit more calculated when he does decide to shoot in? We don't know, but I'm excited to see if this gas tank plays a role in the early parts of the fight, or if he decided, I'm going to need all 25 minutes of this fight. But this one, I keep saying it, I could not be more excited for this fight, and I have a feeling, I'm not going to jinx it here, knock on wood, this fight is going to live up to the hype and then some that we're expecting.
Adding another tactical layer, Din Thomas isn't holding back with his hot take. If Dricus du Plessis truly wants to beat Khamzat Chimaev, he has to take the fight to the mat. Forget running or trying to keep his distance. Thomas says DDP needs to grapple with Chimaev, even go for his takedowns to prove he's a serious threat. He figures this is the only way to rattle Chimaev's confidence and turn it into a stand-up war, just like Gilbert Burns managed to do.
I don't think it's as simple as that.
Different layers, dude.
No, it's not as simple as that. I mean, it's low hanging fruit there. But I do think if you want to take other low hanging fruit, I really do believe this comes down to DDP challenging Khamzat on the floor. You have to be able to grapple with Khamzat if you want to have any chance of winning. That's the reality of it. You know, all these guys, they try to get away from him. Use my distance, get low, use my distance, defend the shot. He's going to get you. He's going to get you. You have to be, you might as well get it out of the way. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't think it's a bad strategy or even be surprised if DDP shot on him.
Yeah.
Man, he might not get the takedown, but you gotta show him that you can grapple with him. Like if you want to trade with him, make him feel like that's the only option of winning. Right? And that's why, in fact, it was playing at the gym today. Gilbert Burns and Khamzat was playing at the Goat Shed this morning. The reason why Gilbert Burns had so much success against Khamzat is because when Khamzat took Gilbert down, Khamzat felt Gilbert's hips moving in his guard and said, nah, I'm straight. I'm good.
Right.
I don't need to play this game. And it was a striking match. All these other guys, they start trying to get up. Come on, get up, get to the fence, get up. And all he does is take your back, dump you down, take your back, dump you down. And in order to be successful against him,
Taking it a step further, Din Thomas is throwing out a bold prediction. He's completely convinced Dricus du Plessis is going to pull off a big upset against Khamzat Chimaev. He doesn't see DDP just surviving. Instead, Thomas believes du Plessis will match Khamzat's pace, be super efficient, and start taking over as early as the 3rd round, possibly even snagging a stoppage. Basically, he thinks we're going to see Khamzat start to fade way sooner than most folks expect.
I think Dricus wins. I think he beats him. I think he wears him out earlier, actually, than even like going into the 5th round. I think he could probably get a stoppage somewhere in the 3rd. I think that, and not necessarily like weathering the storm, but just matching the pace. Maybe being a little more efficient in areas, and then just we start to see
Meanwhile, Team Mayhem MMA is seriously hyped, diving deep into the potential showdown between Khamzat Chimaev and Dricus du Plessis. While both are killing it, undefeated in the UFC, DDP has a knockout loss from earlier in his career, unlike Chimaev's perfect record. That's why he's banking on the betting odds to swing hard in Chimaev's favor, cementing his status as the absolute phenom of the sport.
Obviously both fantastic fighters, both undefeated in the UFC, which is extremely impressive, but Chimaev is fully undefeated in MMA. Dricus du Plessis has been beaten in an MMA fight, and I believe he actually got knocked out in the welterweight division in the early part of his career. So I would predict the gambling odds are actually going to be massively in favour of Chimaev, because he is, he's been a phenom.
On the other hand, Rainier de Ridder just spilled some wild details about who's tougher to prepare for between these two giants. Turns out he thinks getting ready for Khamzat Chimaev would be a walk in the park compared to Dricus du Plessis. De Ridder straight up said Khamzat's got a typical style you can drill for, but Dricus, he's just weird. A total nightmare to figure out in training, even if Chimaev's the bigger name bringing in the crowds.
He would be like an easier guy to prepare for. Not that he is an easier fight, but is more of a typical style. I can bring a couple of Dagestanis and a couple Chechens in who wrestle pretty similar to Khamzat. He boxes pretty cleanly, like boxing style. So yeah, that is not that spectacular. It's spectacular, but it's not that special in a sense that it's not as weird as Dricus is, so it'd be harder to prepare for him, but he might, if he wins, he might be the bigger name. But in my mind, I'm fighting both those guys in the next 6 to 9 months anyway.
Interestingly, Michael Bisping is dropping some serious truth bombs about the upcoming Chimaev versus du Plessis showdown. He's hyped on Chimaev's insane takedowns, but then spills the tea on why legendary fighter Dean Thomas thinks a Chimaev championship would be a total nightmare, all because he's unreliable. Honestly, Bisping even sounds a little nervous that the fight might not even happen, with Kyle Boayo already on standby just in case.
He shoots like Khamzat Chimaev from about a mile away, but it's so fast and so explosive. He level changes, then woof, he flies across the octagon, and all he's got to do is get a hold of you, and you are in a world of trouble. So, does he beat Dricus du Plessis? That's not what we're here to talk about. What we're going to talk about is it a disaster if Khamzat Chimaev becomes the champion of the world? Because that's the opinion of one legendary fighter, Dean Thomas. Dean Thomas was talking on a show or doing an interview, and he said it would be a disaster if Khamzat Chimaev won because he's not reliable, okay? And the division might get held up. The exact quote was, if Khamzat wins, it's a disaster. You can't tell me that part of you isn't just thinking the fight might not actually happen. By the way, if it doesn't happen, the backup fighter is Kyle Boayo. I thought Nasruddin Imavov versus Boayo was going to go ahead at some point, but Boayo just confirmed he will be there in Chicago. If Khamzat can't make it to the fight, if he fails on the scale, if he gets sick, if he gets food poisoning, or Dricus du Plessis just doesn't fancy it.
Moreover, Michael Bisping isn't holding back, laying out exactly why Dricus du Plessis is a serious threat. He's a massive middleweight with insane jiu-jitsu and knockout power, and get this, his cardio's even better after that nose job. Bisping's saying Dricus isn't just ready for Khamzat Chimaev, he's cooking with gas to face him. Because, as Bisping points out, a champion needs to be active to make their mark and their money.
The best form of defense is attack. Put Khamzat Chimaev on the back foot. Dricus du Plessis isn't scared of anyone. You probably saw that picture of me and him in Sydney back in the day. He was way bigger than me, okay? I put it on my Instagram. I said, I'm 220 pounds, and Dricus du Plessis was making me look tiny. He's a massive middleweight. He's got excellent jiu-jitsu skills. He tapped out an entire black belt Gracie team one after the other. He's got knockout power, and he's got the cardio as well these days, ever since he got the nose job, okay? So the man's cooking with gas. He's firing on all cylinders, and he can't wait to go head-to-head with Khamzat Chimaev. So, would it be a disaster if Khamzat Chimaev wins? That's what Dean Thomas said. I kind of get his point, because we do want to have a busy champion, okay? You got to fight. You can't sit on the sidelines. You can't become the champion and say, right, I'm going to avoid fighting people now. No, you got to defend it, because when you defend it, that's when you make money. That's how you build your brand. That's how you get the endorsement deals, okay? Look at Israel Adesanya.
Khamzat Chimaev is leaving no stone unturned for UFC 319. His camp's done, and word on the street is he's looking terrifying, fully prepared to dominate in that octagon. Switching to mind games, Arman's got the lowdown. He thinks Dricus sticks to one game plan, never mixing things up. And get this, Dricus tweeted he'd shell out 10 grand to Khamzat for every takedown.
Without giving anything away, of course, what is a good strategy Khamzat is looking at in terms of going at Dricus?
He does every fight the almost same things, and he's not gonna change anything. DDP thinks the Khamzat not gonna take him down.
He said he'll give him, I saw on Twitter, Dricus said he'll give him 10,000 for every time he's able to take him down.
If he's really thinks like he's gonna pay his 10,000, he's not gonna make money from that fight. He's gotta give all his money to Khamzat.
Moving on from a fighter's insight, Michael Venom Page is getting real about the huge Khamzat versus DDP fight. He's got some awesome insights, especially since he's trained with Khamzat. He straight up says seeing Khamzat in person is special, calling him a total superstar who just takes over any room. MVP finds it super inspiring to watch someone so dominant in a different martial arts style, and it just makes him want to push himself even harder.
You reckon's gonna win in that?
Man,
that one there.
I would love to.
You trained with Khamzat as well?
Yeah, and you know what? Seeing I always say, seeing somebody as special in person when they're training, it's a beautiful thing to watch, and it just inspires me more because he's exceptional in a completely different area to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm very good in my area
as well. When you were training with
100%, and you know, there's certain people that demand the room.
Yeah.
He walks in and he demands the room. You know, everybody, he's just, you can tell he's a superstar.
Yeah.
But he's so good in his area, and just watching it, I was just like, yeah, it's unbelievable. I appreciate it. Like I said, it inspires me to go and, you know, push myself more.
Yeah.
But saying that in terms of coming to the fight, DDP is somebody that is the complete opposite.
And finally, when the talk swings to Dricus du Plessis, MVP is straight up confused by the champ. Even with all DDP's wins, Michael Venom Page just can't figure out his messy style and doesn't see him as naturally super talented. Still, MVP's quick to give props, admitting DDP's wins speak for themselves, proving that just knowing how to win is a skill all on its own.
Don't get how he keeps winning. As in, he's not a person I look at and think, oh man, super talented. And obviously there's something about him because he keeps winning. And sometimes even that is an art, knowing how to win.
Do you reckon it's psychological that he's got tremendous will?
He has to be well trained, obviously, and he does do things, but he just seems messy to me. But at the same time, you have to give him his flowers. You have to give him his respect because he's still winning. And this is what, that every time I put my money against him, shall I say.
Yeah.
When the cage door closes, all the talk, predictions, and mind games will fade into the background. It will come down to two warriors, face to face, fighting for pride, legacy, and the right to call themselves the best. No matter who's standing at the end, this battle is destined to leave its mark on UFC history.